$500 gaming PC. It really happened. Today we're revisiting the Norton 500, but this time he's ordered everything online.
Basically, we put together the parts list, we mail ordered everything, and basically our research is, of course, started on PriceWatch.com. But I want to tell you right now, the biggest difference between buying stuff in a store and buying it online is packing material.
Oh, I hate
I
this.
now have more little tiny fuzzy squeaky things in my cubicle than anyone should ever have.
Bad.
But basically, we went through, we used PriceWatch for our research, right? We started out and we looked through our motherboard of choice, our CPU of choice, and here's the deal. You go to PriceWatch.com, you click on a page, and you start scrolling down. This is not real complicated stuff. What you guys always ask us about is, how's this vendor? How's that vendor? Were they any good? So what we did is we went through, we picked the best prices on the best vendors, and we got a pretty goodly sample of vendors out there. We used Newegg.com, DumpingGoods.com, one of my new favorite web names ever, TigerDirect.com, Directron.com, GoGoCity.com, 3B Tech through the Yahoo store. And, well, you know, the thing is, though, some things worked better than others. We got pretty close. A couple things we realized. We gave an intern a credit card and we ran them and set them loose. The two things we found out is you need to read very, very carefully on what you're ordering. Example, we ordered a Power Max, what we thought was a Power Max power supply and a case, and it turns out it was actually the Power Max power supply only. So we're going to have to reorder our case. We borrowed a case for this. The other thing we did, something you should be very careful when you're ordering a processor, is to make sure that you order a heatsink separately, or order a boxed heatsink or a boxed processor that comes along with the heatsink. And one reason you might want to also do that is to make sure that you actually have a warranty covering your processor, because there's something a little frightening, especially for me, having destroyed a few AMD processors, when you get something like this in the mail.
No returns accepted on processors.
Exactly. So be really careful about that.
That's not very helpful.
So one of the problems you run into is, I think it was at saveateagle.com.
Yeah, Eagle Computer.
Eagle Computer, which is saveateagle.com. And we ordered some memory online. We punched it in. We got the credit card number. We paid for our shipping. And alrighty then. And then we found out that they didn't actually have it in stock. We got an oops and an apology after we called them up to find out where it was, which is not how I want to find out. And that's one of the things you have to do, is you have to double check to make sure it's in stock and to make sure that it's going to ship on time. And the other thing is the cost of shipping.
Right.
Now, we're going to talk about that more later on. And we're also going to talk about some things like finding out, our Athlon 2600 330, because we actually 333, because we actually got a better processor than we originally spec'd for this PC, because some of the prices went down. Actually has a rebate and how you cash in that rebate. Anyhow, we mail ordered the parts. We went to PriceWatch. We chose the best price we could get. Basically the combination of the best price between whether or not we got free shipping or paid for shipping, and we're going to make the whole thing run. We're going to talk about all the parts in the next segment.
I'm excited. Now, when did this whole process start? When was the start date of the Norton 500?
Well, we did the segment a couple months ago, and then like last week, somebody went, here's a credit card, buy the stuff.
Let's do it online.
And away we went.
All right.
In the meantime.
This is sort of a week in the making. I'm excited. We're going to check in later to find out how it's going. For now, let's check in with Boo for a quick test. Sorry, world. Girl, wow.
Yeah, but it's not, 8 megapixel isn't like 4 times as good as 2 megapixels.
Right.
It's only like twice as good as 2 megapixels.
You get like diminishing returns as the megapixels.
But you can get amazingly high prices. They're going to tell you all about that on Fresh Gear, which is right after Tech Live, which is right after this show.
That's right.
So you're on a budget, you don't have time to visit your local computer store, or maybe there is no local computer store near you, but you want a decent gaming rig. As we showed you earlier, you can buy all the computer parts you need online. We put together a system, we spec'd it out for you. It comes in under $500. Now, admittedly, we do this, we assume this is going to be an upgrade to an existing system, so we don't have a monitor in there, and we don't have a copy of the operating system. We assume you're going to recycle your operating system and plug this in your existing monitor. We got a pretty good set of parts in here. We got a CPU. Well, duh, of course we have a CPU, but it's an Athlon XP 2600, 333 megahertz front side bus, $65.99 after the $20 rebate.
Cha-ching.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous how much power you can get for no money these days.
Yeah.
Motherboard went with 8-bit NF7 Enforce 2, basically a socket A, ATX. It got built on audio on the motherboard. We've got a SPDIF out. We've got LAN built in. Everything you need. 8X AGP support, $69. I don't know if you can see that. You like the feet on the case, don't you? We'll get this one to you next. Actually, I'll turn something you can see it. King Max provided the RAM for us. 512 megabytes, PC 2700, DDR 333. $93. Now, originally we ordered a generic version for about $79.50, but as we told you earlier, it wasn't in stock, so we had to go with a second supply on that. ATI Radeon 9600 Pro for the graphics, which is more than enough if you're playing at 10x7 for your gaming. And the hard drive's a little odd. Normally we go with like a Western Digital or a Seagate or a Maxtor, but we're going to take a flyer on this one and try the magnetic data technology. I believe it's a refurbished drive, 100 gigabytes, 7200 RPM, $64. So we just got to know if it works, right?
Yeah, because if it does,
it's amazing. Basically to keep it cheap, we went with a simple CD. To keep it cheap, we went with a simple CD-ROM drive. In case you guys don't know what a CD-ROM drive looks like, it looks like that. $17 for 52X. So basically, all we're using the CD-ROM drive in this is maybe ripping some tunes, but mostly loading games. For another $20, you can get a CDR drive. For another $65, you can get a DVD burner now. Now the case is not exactly what you would be expecting. Normally you'd get a cheap flimsy case that was about to fall apart. In this case, the case didn't arrive because it came separately from a power supply, but we'd be speccing out a PowerMax 400 watt power supply in a steel case. It'd be flimsy, but it would be steel, and it would be $52 for the 400 watt power supply. This is not a $50 PC case. This is like a $125 PC case. Got everything installed. We're going to plug in the power. We're going to restart it so we can get Windows XP to boot. Keep watching if you want to see it running later on.
I want to see it running.
You do?
I'm going to keep watching.
Okay.
That's right. Now, until then, let's check in with Leo for a quick AOL.
It's for a sub $500 gaming PC. And we're actually, if I can find the little tiny clip to power it up, we'll see it in full operational mode.
I want to see it.
Should we do a question? Do we have time to do a live question first before we do that?
Sure.
Oh, we don't have the caller yet.
I
thought we did. Anyhow, let's go over the parts and prices one more time.
That's trick.
We did an Athlon XP 2600 Plus. Well, why don't you read these off, and I'll find the little switch so I can power it up.
Athlon XP 2600 33 AMD for $65.99, 8-bit NF7 N-Force 2 socket. I don't want to do this. ATX with audio.
You want to find the little tiny power switch inside of this?
Darn it! This just isn't my forte, Patrick. You know that.
Okay, so we got audio LAN and AGP8X built on it. $69.99. KingMax is a provider of the 512 megabytes of PC 2700 DDR RAM. $93 for that. Radeon 9600 Pro for the graphics. A fine card, especially if you're not, using a 17, 19-inch monitor, not going above 10x7 for your gaming. Took a flyer on the hard drive, magnetic data technology at 100 gigabytes, 7200 RPM hard drive, $64. We just had to know how good a $64 100 gigabyte drive was. LG provided the CD-ROM drive, spinning up at 52X. PowerMax for the case and the power supply, and we're going to have to reorder that one in because we ordered just the power supply by accident. The total price with the shipping, $490.98. Oh, you know what? I take that back. That's without shipping and tax. We had to get these parts in the house for today's show. We used 2-day air shipping, and because of the Eagle computer mess, we had to get next day shipping on the memory, so that bumped up our total a bit. So if you got the whole lack of a patience thing, $627.73. That's $137 in shipping if you want it fast. If you have the luxury of time, though, lots of vendors, including many of the ones we used, offer free shipping, especially if it's UPS ground. Some vendors don't charge sales tax. However, as we've learned here recently in California, and some people I know in New Jersey, they're starting to put out-of-state purchases and asking you to claim them on your personal tax forms for your state. Anyhow, if you have time, your order including shipping, including the original generic memory I recommended, well, would have totaled $504.19. Not bad for pretty good graphics and an outstanding processor. Now, if you want to go through all the parts in the PC, look for the build at $500 gaming PC link at thescreensavers.com.
See, it just didn't seem right for me to read all of that.
Well,
it's your Norton 500 gaming PC.
I just wanted you to read the parts list, and I was going to jump back into the fun part.
I'm sorry.
Anyhow, we're going to talk